Peace and love, family. Welcome to U.S. Political Prisoners and You, brought to you by the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition, NEPPC. I'm Brother Frank. Once again, we have to discuss what's coming up. What's coming up is Black History Month. It's a time where we reflect on our history. In order for us to really have an appreciation for that month, we have to go into the history of it, like who originated it. And for those of you who don't know, is Carter G. Woodson, Carter Goodwin Woodson, December 19th, 18, he was born December 19th, 1875, and Pat made his transition April 3rd, 1950, was an American historian, author, journalist, and the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. He was one of the first scholars to study the history of the Black African diaspora in the United States, a founder of the Journal of Negro History in 1916. Woodson has been called the father of Black history. In February 1926, he launched the celebration of Negro History Week, the precursor of Black History Month. Woodson was an important figure to the movement of Afrocentrism due to his persistence of placing people of sub-Saharan African descent at the center of the study of history and the human experience. Uh, that's a brief description of who he is and his origins. And I think that, we have to take our history very seriously, right? And when this month comes, it's a time for us to reflect on it, the importance of it. But we can't talk about our history without talking about our political prisoners. As you know, this platform is about U.S. held political prisoners and bringing them home and make sure that they don't die in prison. That's why when we air our episodes, we always giving you information about who they are and where they are, so that you can be in contact with them to make sure that you do your part in the fight to bring them home, and letting others know that we all can do something. We all can stand together. As long as we stand in solidarity at some level, then our potential for change, or our potential for whatever we want done, is going to be possible. This book was given to me by a widow of one of our political prisoners, Sister Yasmin, and I'm very grateful to her for this book because it's called Over 900 Years in Captivity, and this book gives a number of political prisoners. And I want to go through this book because it's an important piece of our history, right? Because we don't say enough about our political prisoners. We don't identify who they are enough. We don't spend enough time to struggle to bring them home. That's why when we have the opportunity to do so, it's important that we take advantage of that. It's important that we put out the information. So this is cool. It says Mumia Abu-Jamal. Who is Mumia Abu-Jamal? Mumia Abu-Jamal, born Wesley Cook on April 24th, 1954, is an American political prisoner currently residing at Mahanoy State Correctional Institution in Frackville, Pennsylvania. He is serving a life sentence for the 1981 murder of Philadelphia police officer Daniel Faulkner, which to this day he says he didn't do it, and we know he didn't do it, but we know what that's about. It's always our politics, first and foremost, the politics of a people struggling for self-determination. Next page is who is Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin. Now he's an ancestor, formerly known as H. Rap Brown. H. Rap Brown was the founder and later chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in 1970. He served as the Minister of Justice of the Black Panther Party. A shootout during the attempted robbery of a bar on New York City's Upper West Side left him and two police officers injured. He did 5 years in New York prisons, where he converted to Islam and took the name Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, preaching Islam. Al-Amin in the 1980s became a pillar of Atlanta's burgeoning Muslim community. After his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1976, he settled in Atlanta, where he soon founded the Community Mosque. It goes more into his life, but I want to make time for others, so we could talk about others. Freddie Kamal Siddiqui Hilton. Who is Kamal Siddiqui? Kamal was not in the spotlight after his release from prison. He went to work, having two daughters and himself to support. He went to work for the telephone company in New York for over 18 years. Both of his daughters finished college and are now married with families of their own. Kamal wasn't out beating a drum. He was being a quiet warrior that he is. He is a Muslim, another liability in these United States, where the term is almost synonymous to terrorist now. Kamal Siddiqui is a former member of the Black Panther Party. So it goes more into his life, but just want to give you a briefing of one of our political prisoners that we need to recognize during Black History Month. Who is Kenny Zulu Whitmore? The book has a picture. Sorry if I have too much lighting, but I just want to give you an idea of what's being talked about. Who is Kenny Zulu Whitmore? Kenny Zulu Whitmore has been in Angola State Prison for 36 years. He was falsely charged and convicted of armed robbery and murder. When Zulu was sent to Angola in 1978, he met King and Woodfox of the Angola Three. He had met Wallace previously during a 1973 stint in the Baton Rouge jail for a robbery charge, which was later dropped. Wallace planted the seed of political activism then, which continued to grow in Zulu's mind. So that's just a briefing of our brother, Kenny Zulu Whitmore, one comrade who had actually wrote me a letter. Personally, I shared it with as many people as I could. I have to make more copies and distribute them to other places because I know that his open letter needs to be given to as many communities as possible. Please contact me at 347-679-3936 if you would like a copy of that letter, because this letter needs to be given to as many people as possible, because we have to make it our business to let people know about our political prisoners. Let them know that they're not forgotten, that we love them and we think about them constantly. And we want to do as much as we possibly can to bring them home. Black History Month allows us the opportunity to engage in conversations about them, to talk about the history of political prisoners, right? Before I get into the next political prisoner that's on this book, I want to talk about some of our history in political prisoners, right? You have Nat Turner and his comrades when they did what they did to change their reality. You know, they was captured, they was tortured. So momentarily before they became martyrs, they were political prisoners, right? Because their politics was about fighting for our right to be self-determined, for our right not to be treated like subhumans. And he got busy. He and his comrades did what was necessary to advocate that idea that we had the right to be self-determined. Marcus Garvey, when we talk about Marcus Garvey, we don't speak enough about him being a political prisoner. I often ask myself, why is that? Why is it that when we talk about people like Martin Luther King, people like Steve Biko, people like Marcus Garvey, we don't always put emphasis on them being political prisoners? I think that, you know, when we don't do that, you know, we are not dealing with what's going on right now and the fact that they are political prisoners. I think that is very important that when we talk about these key figures in our liberation struggle, that we have to put emphasis on them being former political prisoners. I think once we start to do that, then we make the connection with the past to the present, and then we start to understand what needs to be done and why is it necessary for us to continue to fight for our political prisoners to come home. It is because that they don't need to be ignored, that we need to stand in solidarity, be very serious about what has happened to them and why it has happened. And now it'll start making us more mature, right? Malcolm always taught us about political maturity, right? When you start identifying your political prisoners, identifying your captured freedom fighters, then you start understanding what it means to be serious about your politics, what it means to make a distinctive position, take a distinctive position when it comes to your politics. Who is Joseph Jojo Bowen? Joseph Jojo Bowen is a Black Liberation Army prisoner of war, serving 2 life sentences for actions carried out against a prison warden and deputy warden, as well as an attempted prison break, which resulted in a 5-day standoff. As a teen, Jojo Bowen was a member of North Philly's 30th and Norris Street Gang. While serving a 5-year prison sentence for a social crime, Jojo was introduced to revolutionary politics. From this point on, he was determined to dedicate his life to the People's Liberation Movement. Jojo was released in 1971 and intended to join the struggle on the streets. His involvement, however, would be short-lived when a week after his release on February 21st, 1971, he found himself in a gun battle with the Philadelphia police. In the end, a cop lay dead, and JoJo was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. I ain't no angel. I'll do my time. All we want is to be recognized as what we are, human beings. JoJo Bound. Those is his word. Very descriptive, the picture of him, right? His politics, his passion, his desire to struggle for his people's right to be self-determined. And this is a picture of our beloved captured freedom fighter, JoJo Bowen. I had wrote him. He wrote me back. He's a brother that I found very interesting. I found very passionate. We can't forget him. We got to mention his name. I did a episode on, I think it was another podcast. I forget right now, but if you text me at 347-679-3936, and if you are interested on that particular episode of that platform that I was on, I can give it to you. I can send you the link, and then you can have a discussion amongst the people that you're around and let them know his story, speak about his story, right? This is the time where we have to start speaking more about our political prisoners. I mean, every time is a good time, right? But sometimes people are more inspired, feel more enthusiastic about talking about our political prisoners. Our brother, who was once a political prisoner, he had got released, and he was released before he made the transition for about 9 years, or more than 9 years, excuse me. So this is our beloved comrade, Sekou Odinga, one of the founders of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. We got to make sure we talk about him during Black History Month. South Jamaica, Queens native. Who was Sekou Odinga? When I think about the ultimate sacrifice that many others have made, I realize I have not done enough. There's so much more that needs to be done. As we have fought and struggled, the forces against us have continued to organize and develop strategies to keep us under them. In some ways, we are now worse off than we were when I consciously started struggling in the mid-60s. Unemployment is higher, fewer Blacks are owning their own homes, a lower percentage are going to college, a higher percentage is going to jail, a much higher percentage are killing and maiming each other, especially our youth. That's Sekou Odinga's quote. Sekou grew up in Jamaica, Queens. He is a husband, father of 8, grandfather of 19 plus, and a great-grandfather. He was inspired by the revolutionary principles of Malcolm X when he joined the Organization of Afro-American Unity, followed by the Black Panther Party, PPP, and the Black Liberation Army, BLA. In 1970, he was asked to go to Algeria to help set up the international section of the BPP. After the split in the party caused by the COINTELPRO program, he decided to come back to the U.S. to continue the struggle. He continued that work until October 1981, when he was captured and charged with attempting to murder police. Sekou was not attempted to murder the police. He was in fact running away from the police with his brother comrade, Mutayari Sundiata, fearing for their lives. That fear proved well-deserved when Mutayari was captured and murdered, executed while lying face down on the ground. Sekou was captured a little while later. By then, many people had gathered around, so he was taken to a police precinct where he was beaten and tortured for the next 6 straight hours. The local police and FBI were trying to find out information about Assata Shakur and Abdul Majid, where they were, who they were with, did he know them, when was the last time he had seen them, etc. That torture left him in the hospital for the next 3 months with physical damage he still suffers from today. He was snatched out of the hospital before completely healing and forced into 2 trials, state and federal, for the next 2.5 years. After many lies and prejudicial judge rulings, Sekou was found guilty on both courts. The feds found him guilty of the liberation of Assata Shakur and expropriation of an armored car. The state found him guilty of attempted murder of police. He was sentenced to 40 years and $50,000 fine by the feds and 25 years to life by the state. One sentence to start after the other finished. He was paroled by the feds in 2009 and now is in the New York NYS serving a 25 to life sentence. He is 68 years old and not eligible for parole in the state until 2033. Obviously, this is old information because Sekou did come home and he did what he had to do in terms of raising the consciousness about U.S. held political prisoners. I will always be grateful for the patience he had and opportunity that he gave me to be a part of the work at organizing to raise awareness about political prisoners. Next up is who was Russell Maroon Shorts. This is a picture of Russell Maroon Shorts. If you haven't read the book, please get it. It's Maroon the Implacable, and it's about his life. And he gives you some very interesting information about organizing. Especially like when he talks about need to know, right? We struggle in our political circles and even in our uh, biological family circles around gossip, right? So it's very important that information is not given to everybody because certain people in certain positions don't need to know everything. And I think that that book let me know. That's what at least that's what I got from it. It's because you want to keep things secure. You want to keep your security in your organizations tight. So he lays that out, and I thought he laid that out very well in that book. So again, that's Maroon the Implacable, and that's about the life of Russell Maroon Shorts. A new African prisoner of war. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in August of 1943, one of 12 children in the household of Gladys and Russell Shorts. I am a new African political prisoner of war who at this moment is serving a prison sentence at the Waynesburg, Pennsylvania and state institution. I was originally locked up in January of 1972 and have since spent over 25 years in 15 different state, county, and federal prisons, jails, and a maximum security prison mental institution. Over 20 of these years were spent in the holes of these various facilities, locked down for 23 or more hours daily. I became increasingly politically aware and active in the new African liberation movement. So it goes more into his life. I think that if you go online, you'll be motivated, moved by his words, right? Because there's some interviews online that he conducted. Our brother has since this print, he has made his transition. He did come home where he was treated with his loved ones, and I had the honor of being a part of the campaign to raise awareness about him, and the work helped me commit myself more at an advanced level to this work in terms of working with different people and exchanging different ideas and making decisions that are best fit to help this brother come home. Obviously, is that effort that I was part of, that collective effort that produced that reality. So you know, the brother's ancestor now, but he left us with a body of work. He left us the example of what it takes to be a professional revolutionary. How you need to conduct yourself, and the chances and the risk and the commitment and the dedication that you need to have. So I'm always grateful for that. In fact, I can speak on behalf of all of us. We're all grateful for those who made those decisions about their lives. People like Sekou Odinga, people like Russell Maroon Shorts, people like Mutulu Shakur. But before I get into this, I just want to go on to this quote by John Henry Clark, and it talks about our history. And I think that this quote is very important because it gives us a clear idea about the importance and the power of history. Please like, please subscribe, please share. We need to get the word out there about our political prisoners. We need to let those who are conducting any classes, any workshops around Black history to make sure that you make time to talk about political prisoners, give people assignments around writing to political prisoners, and you'll be surprised. They're going to write back. Um, John Henry Clark on history. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. Wow, I think that statement gives us clarity on the power and importance of history and the fact that we need to hold our history very sacred. We do family genealogy, and we find out who we are, where we came from, with a sense of understanding why we think the way we think, why we have the desires we have. And I think that that idea should go on to our politics, right? Learning about our political history, learning about who did what when, right? We talked about Nat Turner, we talked about Marcus Garvey. They lived at a different time, but during that time, the attack by oppressor was happening, right? It was an attack on our right to self-determination. We're going to tell you who your freedom fighters are. We're going to tell you what methods, what strategies, what tactics that you need to take up in order for you to be liberated, in order for you to exercise your right to self-determination. And when we start to look at that situation and challenge that situation, now we can properly appreciate our political prisoners, our prisoners of war, our lifetime freedom fighters who put it all on the line to advance us. Sundiata Acoli. Who is Sundiata Acoli? Sundiata Acoli is a mathematician, computer analysis, born January 14th, 1937, in Decatur, Texas, and raised in Vernon, Texas. He graduated from Prairie View A&M College of Texas in 1956 with a BS in mathematics, and for the next 13 years worked for various computer-oriented firms, mostly in the New York area. During the summer of 1964, he did voter registration work in Mississippi. In 1968, he joined the Harlem Black Panther Party and did community work around issues of schools, housing, jobs, child care, drugs, and police brutality. In 1969, he and 13 others were arrested in the Panther 21 conspiracy case. He was held in jail without bail and on trial for 2 years before being acquitted, along with all other defendants, by a jury deliberating less than 2 hours. Upon release, FBI intimidation of potential employers shut off all employment possibilities in the computer profession and stepped up COINTELPRO harassment, surveillance, and provocations soon drove him underground. In May 1973, while driving the New York Jersey Turnpike, he and his comrades were ambushed by New Jersey state troopers. One companion, Zaid Shakur, was killed. Another companion, Assata Shakur, was wounded and captured. One state trooper was killed and another wounded, and Sundiata was captured days later. After a highly sensationalized and prejudicial trial, he was convicted of the death of the state trooper and sentenced to Trenton State Prison for life plus 30 years consecutive. Upon entering TSP, he was subsequently confined to a new and specially created management control unit, MCU, solely because of his political background. He remained in MCU almost 5 years in a strip cell, smaller than the SPC's space required for a German Shepherd dog. In September 1979, the international jurors interviewed Sundiata and subsequently declared him a political prisoner. There's some more information about him, but that's pretty much it. I'm just trying to give you an overview of who he is and what he did and why he's important for us to talk about and study. Recently, we had a celebration of his life, also of Herman Bell's life, because it was their birthday. And it was remarkable to see people show appreciation, to give him love, kisses, and giving them food, gifts. And there was a number of things that happened. And so I was thankful to be a part of that. And I salute those who are there, who organized that. Definitely made me very proud to be a part of that collective. Sundiata, he came home because people organized that. People fought for him to come home because the state did not want him to be free. They wanted to give him more time to serve and before they even considered paroling him. And that's very unfortunate. But as he said himself, it's not the state don't free the people do, right? So that organized effort, that effort that we need to take up to free our political prisoners is very serious. It's a science. It makes things happen, right? I told you before, and you're going to hear me say it again, but these probation officers, these people are supposed to be protectors or defenders of the community. So how are you going to defend the community if you don't have dialogue with the community? You need to ask the community, is this person a threat? Is this person an asset to the community? or is this person a liability? And the community should be able to say what they feel, because I think when that happens, now we start to bring our political prisoners home. Now we start to understand what the state is doing, and now we start understanding our real power, our power that we always have. Right? We are not always conscious of it because we out doing other things. We might be divided on certain issues, but when it comes to our political prisoners, we need to be united. We need to express more solidarity than sympathy, because sympathy does not get us nowhere, right? It's a start for some people. You have sympathy for political prisoners, but what are you doing? You have to go beyond that sympathy. You have to be in a position to express solidarity, and that solidarity is doing some work. Maybe writing an article, maybe doing a mural, maybe donating some money, maybe sharing this information that you're getting with as many of your contacts as possible, or spending some time to write into a political prison. Those are acts of solidarity, going beyond sympathy. Um, who is Jalil Muntaqim, age 58 at the time of this publication? It says age 58. Father, grandfather, and great grandfather, sentenced 25 years to life, has been incarcerated for 47 years. Jalil has been told he must spend at least another 15 months, 2020, behind bars, having been denied release for the 9th time by the New York State Parole Board, December 2018. Jalil has been home. He's been doing some incredible work in the community. In fact, the white racist newspaper, New York Post, has some derogatory things to say about our brother, but it is our responsibility to respond back. We have to defend our captured freedom fighters. We have to defend our former political prisoners and our current political prisoners, and say these are our committed soldiers. These are committed freedom fighters, and they're not who you say they are. They're not criminal. They're not terrorists. They are advocates for our right to self-determination. They are fighters for our freedom, our fight to liberation, and they are liberators. Jalil Muntaqim Anthony Bottom went to prison and expectant father in 1971. His daughter was born while he was behind bars, and years later followed the birth of his granddaughter. Neither has ever known a time when Mr. Bottom was not a prisoner. Yet, for over 30 years, Mr. Bottom has struggled to be a good father, grandfather, son, and brother. Besides struggling to maintain connection with his family, he has also stayed connected to outside movements for social justice. I'm not going to get more into this because our podcast episode is about to come to an end. I got about 3 more minutes, but that's Jalil Abdul Muntaqim's story briefly. If you look at his book, I had completed his book, We Our Own Liberators, a very powerful book. He details his experience in prison. One was very bothered me a lot is when he was in one prison cell, and his prison cell, it was very hard for him to breathe, so he had to get on the floor, and he had to actually breathe at the lower part of the cell. So I said, wow, this brother endured all of that, came home, and still committed himself to his people's freedom. So we salute you, we appreciate you, and we love you, right? And when I say that, I mean that our expression of love is through our action, through our deeds. Purchasing a book of yours, making sure we tune into the things that you're talking about, and if we don't tune in, to make sure that we share with as many contacts as possible, because that is important, right? I know that we all have our lives. I know that we all have things to do, but there are certain things that we need to pay attention to, and we need to make some time for it, because sometimes you might be in a position just to share some information, and that might help what's going on at the time. But I'm coming to the end of this podcast episode. I appreciate your time. And before I go, I just want to give people assignments. If you're doing any work on Black History Month, please talk about political prisoners. Please give people the assignments to write to a political prisoner. And if you having trouble with a particular contact, please call me at 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. I'll do what I can to get you that necessary information, because it is important that we set assignments for ourselves. It is important that when we start talking about political prisoners, we accept the challenge, the assignment to write to a political prisoner. It's important that when we talk about Black History Month, that we include our political prisoners, that we don't ignore this fact. So with that being said, I'll conclude this episode by saying I appreciate your time. I know the value of it. And Black History Month is right around the corner. We have our work ahead of us to learn more about our history, learn about who did what and why, and learn about the fact that we have the responsibility with this knowledge to carry it on. Be safe in your travels, and don't let political prisoners die in prison. In fact, don't let another political prisoner die in prison. Peace and love, y'all.